You know, I've been eating this forever, and it never ceases to amaze me that a weed growing out there that grows everywhere, that people are so eager to cut down and get rid of, can taste so daggum good. Test, 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 testy, testy, test. Welcome back to The Practical Woodsman. I'm Rhett, the creator and host of The Practical Woodsman. That's right. It's my super duper wonderful, awesome, immeasurable genius which has brought this all into existence. I appreciate you guys being here. This is an exclusive video. There's some pokeweed right outside, out in the field there. Let's go get that pokeweed and let's make it into a pokeweed salad. What do you say? I'll tell you, before we hop into that, let's go ahead and do the musical introduction to get us all in the mood, winkety winkety, and then we'll pick the pokeweed, we'll prepare the pokeweed, we'll eat the pokeweed. It's deadly poisonous, so it'll shut down your kidneys and stuff if you don't prepare it right. So it's important to know how to do it, but man, I tell you what, they are delish. They taste to me like collard greens or turnip greens, kind of a spinach flavor to it. So if you like greens, you would love pokeweed salad. And so actually the footage you're going to see here in a minute is me collecting the pokeweed yesterday. So I'm doing a little bit of movie magic here, where we're going to go pick the pokeweed, bring it back here, and then I'll show you how we prepare it. Before we do that, we've got to do the musical introduction, and we'll be right back when that ends. Come over here to get some peaches off this peach tree, and I saw this pokeweed over here, and I wanted to show her off. It's got these purple stems like this, and it's got these berries. These berries turn into they turn purple. We used to make ink out of those when I was a kid. Pokeweed is poisonous. It'll kill you. It'll shut down your inside organs if you ain't careful. But you can also make poke salad out of these leaves. And it's a little late in the year. A lot of people like the younger leaves, but I've done this before, and I'm gonna make poke salad out of this. Turns them into really delicious greens. So let me get started on that. Should have brought something to carry these in. When you hear folks talking about tender leaves out in the woods, they're talking about, so you can see here this ginormous leaf here, when they get large and a little bit older like that, they start to lose their softness and their suppleness. And so when you're talking about tenders, you'd be talking about more like these little ones here. They're still young and very tender. They have more flavor and less potential to poison you. And so that's the ones that I'm focusing on. Like I said, I'm not against using the bigger leaves, but we've got a bunch of these tenders here, so that's what I'm choosing to focus on. I come over here to, like I said, to get some of the, there's a peach tree over here. I was going to get some peaches, and while I was in the process of doing that, I saw this pokeweed somebody had knocked down here, and I wanted to get a hold of it before it went bad. Okay, I think we got enough there to make a little one serving pokeweed salad or two-person serving pokeweed salad, and on to the next step. I'll give you one last look at this. That's the stems right there. They're real easy to spot. Dark purple stems, those berries, and especially once those berries turn purple later on in the season, then they become really easy to spot. And here's what the leaves look like. That's exactly what Elvis Presley was singing about when he's singing about pokeweed salad. Poke salad. Put some water in there, let that soak. So I'm going to let those soak. I got a few other things I want to do. I'll come back to these later, but while I'm doing what I need to do, these will be fine soaking right here. All right, so what I did after I went out and picked that pokeweed yesterday was I had a bunch of other jobs and things that I needed to do, so I couldn't get to it right away. What I did was I stuck it in this pan here and stuck that in the fridge. That kept it nice and crisp. It's perfectly nice and crisp. It stayed real nice in the fridge. And so what I'll need to do now that we're going to prepare this is I want to empty this water. And most things that you'll read about pokeweed, like I said at the introduction, it's deadly poisonous. They suggest that you boil, thoroughly boil, and empty the water out twice. I like to boil and empty out the water 3 times just to be sure. And the later it would get in the year, the more I would boil it, and the longer I would boil it, and emptying out the water each time, changing the water. And that's just to get all the bad stuff out that can hurt you. So I think this time around I'm going to boil this 3 times, and that's what we'll do. Tell you what, add a little bit of salt, and my goodness, is pokeweed delicious. So let's get on that. It's already starting to smell real good. It's got a, once you get used to the taste and everything, it's got a really nice smell to it. You want to let that boil for a nice long time. You're trying to boil all the harmful stuff out of the leaves, and then when you empty out that water, all the harmful stuff goes out with the water. And then you put in fresh water and you do it all over again. So just let that sit here and boil and get all that harmful stuff out into the water. Oh yeah, that looks good. You'll know you're getting the bad stuff out because the water will turn greenish. It's actually turned color. So that's how you know you're getting the stuff out of that pokeweed that you don't want. And once the water turns a nice color like that, that's when I'll empty her out. See how that waters? It's actually green. That's good. Second empty out. Second water change. I don't know if this is showing up or not. All right, let's do her again. I want to show off how this pokeweed really begins to take on like the appearance of spinach, collard greens, turnip greens. You see, as it gets softer like that, it really starts to take on those qualities, the same type of qualities as those other greens. And when they get soft and nice like that, man, that's when they turn really, really delicious. Pokeweed, pokeweed, pokeweed. Oh. I had some other things to do, and so I got pulled away from the pokeweed there for a little bit, but I'm back, and I think the pokeweed is ready. Here's what we want to do. I've drained this water for the third time. Let's get a nice, there's never enough light in here. Now I feel ridiculous. I feel like I'm under a street light. But at least, here, let's do it like this. At least, hopefully, you can see down into the pan here. This is the pokeweed all boiled down. And you can see, we picked quite a bit of that yesterday. And let me show you what we ended up with. There you go. That's all the pokeweed that we picked yesterday. Man, you'd think that I was some kind of like super genius scientist with all the clutter that I have over all my tables and everything. But nope. No genius going on here. I mean, besides the practical woodsman genius. All right, so these are still hot. What we want to do is we want to add our salt. Salt is what really makes the flavor on this poke salad pop. Salt those real good. I'll tell you, I love poke salad. Delicious. If you like turnip greens, if you like spinach, if you like collards, you will love poke salad. Yeah. Plates all hot, poke salad's all hot, tender. Oh. And while I've been preparing these, the smell has just been filling up the place, so I'm ready. 3 times, by the way. 3 boils. 3 nice, long, simmering boils is what I did to prepare this poke salad. You know, I've been eating this forever, and it never ceases to amaze me that a weed growing out there that grows everywhere, that people are so eager to cut down and get rid of, can taste so daggum good. It's really remarkable. Mmm. Mmm. Man. So this could be a 2-person serving. If you had like a main dish and you were serving this as a side, what we picked yesterday out in that field would be enough for 2 people. It would not be enough for 2 people if this were the main dish, if this were all that you had. If this were all that you had, then what we picked yesterday would be enough for 1 person. Like, I think if I were out in the woods starving and I come across a mess of pokeweed, that what we picked yesterday would get me through the night. It would satisfy me, and then the next day I could go looking for something else. By the way, I'm glad I picked those yesterday, because I looked over into that field today, and whoever had chopped that down went back today, mowed that field, and mowed right over top of that pokeweed. So it wouldn't have been available if I had not taken the opportunity that I had to go ahead and pick those leaves when I could. And you know, as long as you're opportunistic like that, you can come across a lot of seasonal stuff and enjoy them. You just got to be willing to seize the moment and take advantage of them when you can. It's kind of like last fall. I was in a park and I saw, my goodness, there's all these acorns lying around everywhere. It really wasn't part of my plan that day, and I had other things I wanted to be doing, but I just couldn't pass that moment up. So I grabbed a grocery bag and I started collecting acorns, and man, that turned into a wonderful thing. I ate those acorns and used them as a coffee substitute all winter long and roasted them. They were fantastic. So I'm going to finish up this pokeweed here, folks. There's not a whole lot left to go. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you next time.